Chapter 72. Sin and Law. In the latter 1950s, when visiting my father, I found some of his old country friends, fellow Armenians from Van province. Their happy talk turned sombre as they turned to the American scene. These were the easy years of Dwight D. Eisenhower's presidency and a relaxed and confident outlook. But these elderly Armenians were full of grief. They saw too well the drift away from Christian moorings into a meaningless and indifferent concern to an economic republic from a Christian republic. Some shed tears as they concluded that the United States could become another Turkey. I was shocked by their outlook. Later, when the presidential election between John F. Kennedy and Richard M. Nixon took place, I was further startled because my father, ill and dying, cast an absentee ballot for Kennedy against Nixon as a protest vote. As a young man in my 40s, I said nothing to the older men, but I do not forget that day. Gradually, I came to recognize the validity of their perspective. The Christian past of the United States was steadily becoming simply that, its past. No more than Rehoboam could count on David's and Solomon's achievements as his personal credit, could 20th century America reckon its past as a present asset. A great revolutionary Pope, Gregory VII, whatever his errors, was radically right in declaring that what must govern us is not custom nor tradition, but the truth. He held, quote, "The Lord hath not said, I am tradition, but I am the truth," end quote. The best tradition becomes barren and empty of meaning when separated from the truth. The biblical emphasis is radically and totally on the truth, not on tradition. We are not ruled by the sons of Moses, nor by the blood line of Peter, but by the truth of God. It is not a matter of dissent, but of truth. Our forms may be, in church and state, as severely correct as possible, but they are worthless unless the very Spirit of God governs them. The modern age has been full of nonsense from Descartes on. Ludwig Feuerbach, 1804 to 1872, held that, quote, "Being is one with eating. Man is what he eats," end quote. With a background of many such absurd views, the modern era has inevitably drifted from and abandoned its Christian foundations. Having rejected God, it has rejected the doctrine of sin. Sin presupposes God and His law. The sovereign lawgiver decrees what is good and evil, and what is law and what is sin. As Kevin observed, quote, "If there is sin, there must also be law, for sin is the transgression of the law." 1 John 3:4, end quote. To deny sin, to deny that moral offences are essentially against God and His law, is to deny God's law. Crime is essentially against the state and its order. Sin is against God and His law. Men can escape the eyes of the state, but not of God. To abandon Christianity is to embrace statism or anarchism, the sovereign state or the sovereign man. The sovereign God is rejected. The United States, in its drift, has left God's sovereignty for that of the state. It knows no law save that of the state or some international civil order. The lawgiver becomes the new creator. It was said of Ezra Pound, quote, "Pound attempted to recreate the whole world in the image of himself and his poetry," end quote. In 1922 in Italy, Pound announced, quote, that the Christian era was over, that the, quote, Pound era, end quote, had begun, end quote. This was entirely logical. If we deny Christ, we place ourselves in a godless world and era, but we do not lessen God nor His law and power, only ourselves. By abandoning Christianity, the United States and other nations have abandoned law and freedom for the anarchy of self-willed men. The Pound era means anarchy and death.